Hello and welcome everyone on this cloudy day. I'm Victoria Cope, Faculty Senate President-elect, joining on behalf of our Faculty Senate President, Christopher Stone. We apologize in advance for any technical difficulties that we've experienced early on. I'm going to kick it off to the Staff Senate President, Dr. Jacob Mendez.
Good afternoon. So my name's Jacob Mendez, and I am the current Staff Senate President this year, and it is an honor to have you all today. After this, we are going to move into some introductions, but I wanted to let you know that throughout the presentation today, feel free to add some comments into the chat, and then we will try to answer as many of them as possible. So I'm going to turn it back over and do some introductions and get us going.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacob. Well, we're all super excited about your all's participation and hearing updates from across the campus community. Today, we'll be hearing about faculty and staff affairs, budget updates, and ongoing construction initiatives from President Rick Muma, Provost Monica Lounsbury, David Miller, and Zach Gearhard. Jacob and I will be moderating today's discussion, and your questions are welcome in chat. And also, thank you all so much to everyone who submitted your questions in advance. That truly helps us make sure that we cover what matters most to you. All right, and now I'm super excited to welcome President Muma and Provost Lounsbury. Thank you both for being here today.
Well, thank you all for arranging for this and for having us. And we're looking forward to having some good conversations about what's going on at the university.
Thank you. Well, I will kick this meeting off with our first question. And the first question would be for Provost Lounsbury. What were the purpose and goals of the Provost Office restructuring? Could you please tell us a little bit more about that? Just a second. Just a second, guys. Hang tight.
I think we're having some technical difficulties. Can you all hear me? But I see that you've asked me a question in the chat, but I cannot hear you all, so bear with me. So I see that in the chat you've asked me what were the purpose and the goals of the Provost Office restructure. It's a great question. Thanks for asking that question. You know, one of the things that I really noticed in coming into this role is that we had, for the size of this university, kind of some missing key things that I think are really essential to really support and advance the work of academic affairs. And the heart of academic affairs, administrative support coordination really is the Provost Office. And you all know that we had a kind of a two AVP, a VP structure within the office. And part of the role that Linnea Glenmay played, she had roles that were related in part into our curricular areas and supporting some aspects of curriculum. She also had some roles associated with student success. She also had some roles, although I think not the volume that we need in faculty and faculty affairs kinds of things. And one of the things that I found confusing just as provost coming into this job is what is the relationship between what Linnea was doing and kind of the volume of work we were doing that was really related to all things programs, whether that was new programs being started, whether that was the connection to the channels of approval, or whether we were really talking about strategic enrollment management and all the aspects of that we had moving. And what I'm really used to and what makes better sense to me is one side of the Provost Office who would structure all of the work related to student success and academic programs. And so with the retirement of Linnea, we were able to redistribute those salary resources and think about how to really structure some things that I thought we needed to do to really create greater coordination. So now we have an office of academic programs that's headed up by Dr. Ashley Jack. We did do some title changes because when I came into the office as well, some people had a vice provost or associate vice president title, and some had vice provost and some had vice president, and that really didn't make a lot of sense to me. I really felt like this is the office of the provost, and I wanted folks to have titles that reflected the office of where we were working. To me, that means an academic role that's different and distinct from a vice president title. So a lot of title changes occurred in our Office of Academic Programs. About 3/4 of the work that Dr. Glenn May was doing in her role as AVP relative to curricular programs, we slid those over into different parts of the SEM team that included a variety of folks who were working either on the records part, on our student success parts, or on our pieces around our enrollment and recruitment pieces. So there was a lot of aspects that we wanted to try to get a better handle on who is doing what, and then kind of grow those roles to take on some of the work that Dr. Glenn May was doing and move those under the Office of Academic Programs. This allowed us to take about 1/4 of the work that Dr. Glenn May was doing in faculty affairs and really kind of grow it and think about all the things that really were missing and that I think are at the root cause of some of the frustrations we have. I think everything from really having greater oversight over things like tenure and promotion, workload, additional compensation and its definition of additional compensation, and the kinds of work that people are doing, and creating equity around that, I think is a critical key part of this. Looking at potentially a differentiated staffing model, thinking about our faculty academic appointments, the relationship between the three missions that faculty have in work associated with the professorate. I think we needed a much more directed administrative support and coordination, better policies, procedures, and practices. That also was an extraordinary collaboration through our shared governance structures. And so you all are probably well aware that we wanted to create an Office of Faculty Affairs. And we just underwent an internal search, and we're finalizing that internal search. We're not quite yet to announce anything, but I'm hopeful to have a new AVP soon to head up that office. We will also structure the FAIR office and faculty records under this office. I think that office could grow over time to potentially have we'll probably have immediate interface with research, but some strong aspects of research to really support that work as well. And then additionally, eventually, you all are aware that our biomedical campus is really taking off. If you haven't seen the skyline lately, take a drive by there. There's a lot of things that we need to be focusing on and thinking about. And it's just one of those things that is on top of other people's work. And what we really need to do is create someone who gets up every day and thinks about exclusively and explicitly our biomedical campus. And for us right now, we are in the midst of being able to submit an RFP for that School of Dental Medicine. We need a consultancy to help us understand the feasibility of that, both financial, but also programmatically. We need to get some direction around that. We need to present that, and we need to get a plan moving forward for that. I think folks also know that we want to roll out, and there's conversation, and I'm really excited about our partnership with PIAC to help support this work in rolling out NICI, which is the National Institute for Health Solutions and Innovation. This is a NIAR-like center that we want to really stand up for a faculty-led intellectual property hub where we're really creating a commercial enterprise within the professorate that really is supporting and advancing that work as part of our biomedical research, but also all things health. So really excited about, needing to have someone whose job that is to really kind of support that work. And then eventually, I think most of us can realize that we need to have a budgetary formula and also a greater assessment of academic resources that really is not a static one, but is responsive and nimble to the changing dynamics we have in academic affairs. So eventually, we do need to build out an academic resource office, and that resource office really needs to look at everything that we use in academic affairs, our facilities, and creating priorities and how we're going to restructure that, creating opportunities for interdisciplinarity, lots of potential for interface with the Office of Faculty Affairs and our biomedical campus, really thinking about the resources and the equipment that will be needed so that we don't duplicate effort. So these are some of the things that we're going to really need to be thinking about in the provost office. But our goal here is to get better services, better alignment with where our campus strategic plan is, and get the services in place that we need to facilitate the work of academic affairs. And I'm hopeful that we're headed in that direction soon.
Provost Lounsbury, thank you so much for your input on how this role will ensure a more coherent and aligned administrative framework. Really appreciate it. Well, we also currently have two positions in the office. Could you please update us on how this search for the VP of Student Affairs and Dean of the College of Engineering going?
Okay, I still can't hear anybody, but I see that you've typed another question. I'm not sure what's going on here. But I see the question is, update us on the search for the VP of Student Affairs and the Dean of the College of Engineering. Awesome, happy to do that. Let's take the VP of Student Affairs first. We're so lucky to have had the incredible work of Dr. Hall with us as our VP for Student Affairs. We've been able to cajole her into staying a little bit longer. Originally, she was going to stay with us through November the 29th, but as long as we can keep her here, we want to. And so now we've set the retirement date at January 3rd. And this is because, it's taken us a little while to hire a search firm, and we wanted to really do a good job of selecting a committee that was active and had an active voice in helping us to construct what I think is a very attractive position description and profile. That work has been done now, and recruitment has begun. And so while we have Terry Hall here still in this role, we really are going to work hard to solidify an interim VPSA so that while Terry is here, that we can have a really tight and smooth handoff while the search continues. And so we expect that while we conduct this work, that our committees are going to start to look at semi-finalist and finalist interviews. Our goal is to really have somebody in place by July of this coming year. So excited about that. So let's talk about now the Dean of Engineering. We're making good progress there. I'm excited to tell you that we did hire a search firm. We were successful in doing that almost at the same time that, Dean Muscat left. We have worked really hard to appreciate the actual profile. We got that out. We have completed now recruitment. We had a robust slate of applicants. And the search committee has selected semifinalists, and the interviews for those are going to be coming up, I think, next week. So I'm excited about that. And we think that finalists are expected to visit later this fall, and we could have an appointment as soon as January. But one of the things that I have said is it's so critically important with all of our hires, but we're going to ensure that with our Dean of Engineering that we've got the right candidate to fulfill this need, because we know how essential this position is, and we're going to make sure we get it right. So anybody who has worries about reservations about that, please be assured that we are Obviously, we're super fortunate to have attracted extraordinary slate of candidates. But if we don't find the right fit in any one of those candidates, we're definitely not going to just hire for hire's sake. We're definitely going to find the right fit here for our next Dean of Engineering.
Thank you, Provost Lansbury. I, am very excited to see who is selected. And Dr. Hall and Dr. Skinner have really left a great legacy on campus. So it'll be great to see who the next generation is. And so my next question will be for David Miller as we transition over to more budget conversations. So David, glad you're on today. But could you please update us on the staff hiring process and some changes and reflections for the year?
Hi, Jacob. Yeah, so good afternoon to everyone. So for a quick update on the hiring review process, it was implemented in May to further efforts to move forward, towards a standard university practice of efficiency and to focus on improving our understanding of the need for each position across the organization. And the process applies to all staff at WSU, with the exception of those areas that are externally funded, such as IDP and athletics. Since implementation, the committee has reviewed over 70 vacancies and has approved 75% of those vacancies. Of the 25% that were declined, they kind of fell into three categories for the reasons. One, the requester was unable to provide, business rationale to justify the position. A department didn't have the reoccurring budget available to support the position. And in some cases, it was an opportunity to rethink how the work was being done. We have, to your point, we have made some changes to the process and learned some lessons over time. One of the early changes was the exclusion of lecturer positions from the process, as we quickly learned the most efficient way to review the lecturer positions and vacancies was in aggregate by each individual college. Another change was to the approval process for all new staff vacancies in WooHire, and that allowed the committee to have visibility to all the requests to fill positions, regardless if it was an external search or a workforce transition occurring. And then some of the lessons learned include the importance of asking the right questions by the committee up front. And it did take a few reviews for us to determine what those right questions were to ask. And another lesson learned, is kind of by our hiring managers, and that no one is exempt from this process, and it's not easy, and it's not easy for anyone, both the requesters and those sitting on the committee. We did encounter through the process some folks who didn't think they really needed to provide the requested information. And so, unfortunately, they quickly found out that their position requests were denied until they could provide that information. This process does challenge us in ways that, maybe we haven't been challenged across campus before. And it does ask hiring departments to provide metrics and other data to justify the need for each position that's being requested as they become vacant. And for some of us, those staffing metrics are either not readily available, or it's not something we've challenged ourselves about in the past. And so, as folks think about if they're a hiring department and if they expect to have some vacancies coming up, my best guidance to them is to start thinking about those staffing metrics and how they might compile that to build the case for why their vacancy needs to be filled.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate the thoughtfulness and willing to adjust over time. I believe up next, we may have a slide on market-based to give some updates.
Yeah, just a quick update on market-based comps. So during the fiscal year 26 budget, there was $3.5 million that was allocated for market-based comp with the 2.5% compensation pool. Once all those allocations are complete, that full $3.5 million in reoccurring funding will be completed. And then, since the program was first implemented back in 2023, the university has invested $15.5 million in market-based comp over the past few years.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. Appreciate hearing from you with a few of those updates in your area. The next question, I'm going to bring President Muma on the screen. And I want to ask about any updates regarding any budget constraints we're having right now. Sorry, we will work on any. Make sure you get unmuted.
You should be able to hear me now. Sorry, I didn't.
Yes.
After all of these years, I didn't unmute myself. So thank you, Jacob, for the question. And I just wanted to let everybody know that in terms of your question around budget constraints, we always have constraints on our budget. That's nothing new. Prior to 4 or 5 years ago, we had 13 straight years of budget cuts. And so we all know that the state's not investing heavily in higher education at this point. And in fact, in the last couple of years, or last 6 years, we've only had a couple of years where we've had any kind of adjustments to our base operations. So we're always mindful of some of those issues that we're having to continue to work through. I do get the question frequently, especially this fall, since our enrollments were up, why are we having to be concerned about budgets? And it gets back to the state investment. Although we haven't lost a lot of state funding, we're certainly not gaining funding. And because of that, we have to be mindful of how we're going to make up revenues for increasing costs, inflation, all the different things that you all care about, how we're going to cover those. And that requires us to look at our expenses and how we're expending our revenues. So we are currently in the process of working through that for this next year. And we have a great team led by David Miller, who's our Chief Financial Officer, who you just heard from, working alongside myself and the provost and other members of the leadership team to figure out how we're going to have a balanced budget. We have a balanced budget every year. And how are we going to do that for this next year? Again, we're very mindful of state investment and our revenues that we bring in for tuition. And the revenues that we bring in tuition are really the only single lever that we have to make sure that we are covering our expenses, and the reason why it's so important.
President Muma, thank you so much for addressing those points about budget constraints and being so mindful about the expenditures and expenses. Let's shift to the broader picture, the state and system level budget process. Are there any updates on the legislative budget request for the next session now that KBOR has already approved the system priorities? Could you please tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. You all know that the Board of Regents approved a budget request to the governor and the legislature at the September board meeting. And just for everybody's reminding them about what was requested from WSU, you know that the last several years we've been working on growing resources for need-based aid, for applied learning, and we're going to continue requesting some additional resources along those lines. And one of those is basically a $3.4 million workforce development initiatives that we know that on average, our students have about a $2,000 gap in the resources that they have at their own disposal, what they may get from the federal government, what they may get from the state. And we want to focus those dollars and that request on help meeting the needs of those individuals. We think there's about 1,700 individuals that would benefit from that. And so that will be one of the things that we'll be working with the legislature to see if there's any interest in helping fund that. Of course, our focus has always been on growing the workforce, growing talent, particularly utilizing our applied learning model. So that will be a major discussion that we'll have with the legislature. There is in the request from the KBOR a $15 million energy research program request. Each research institution would receive $5 million, so a total of $15 million. It seems like there is interest in providing support for looking at energy research, the future of energy in our state. And what we would bring to the table is research around alternative energy sources, batteries, those sorts of things. So that's on the table. We'll see where that goes. It also might include things like hybrid electrical, hydrogen, and ammonia kinds of technologies. You all also know several years ago, well, not several, probably about 3 years ago, the state began funding the student success and persistent initiatives across the different universities in the state. That was what we call NIST, brought about by a study that we did through the National Institute for Student Success. For us, that's about $900,000. We believe that we have been using the resources that we received over the last several years has really made a difference. And so we are requesting that would be continued. Any kind of state employee plan, pay plan that the state puts forward, we want to make sure that we participate in that as well, so we can continue to invest in our state's employee pay plan for our employees. Also, we're making sure that we continue to have the conversations where we don't lose funding, and that we make sure that the state funding that we receive remains stable, at least as a starting point. And then the final thing is continued funding of the Campus Restoration Act, which is an act that was passed 2 sessions ago that is putting money into deferred maintenance across the system. And that's why we've been able to do a lot of upgrades and updates and dealt with many of the deferred maintenance issues that we have had in the past and we know that we'll have going forward. So those are the main updates in terms of what we'll be focusing on with the legislature this upcoming session.
Thank you for those updates. It's very helpful to know the focuses for this upcoming year with the legislator and KBOR. Pivoting a little bit, you started to mention it, but could you give some updates on construction projects around campus?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I have some slides, some pictures that I want to put up. The first one, this is the construction project that we're calling the Hub for Advanced Manufacturing and Research. And you may remember 3 years ago, the university received a Build Back Better Regional Challenge grant from the Economic Development Administration, the federal government, U.S. Department of Commerce. And that grant is partially funding this project and is almost complete. It is expected to open in December. And what this is a facility to help advance among small businesses, smart manufacturing and advanced manufacturing processes into their businesses. And there's many labs and other offices that support this kind of work, including about 400 student positions that are working on those kinds of advanced processes, digital engineering, and so forth. So this is a 170,000 square foot facility, the largest advanced materials, smart manufacturing research facility on any university campus in the country. It will be a showcase and obviously a place for further developing students through applied learning and also research. If you go to the next slide, just right across the street, this is the ATF's Forensic Science Research Facility that was made available through some grant programs brought from Senator Moran to help support ATF as they've grown this ecosystem around fighting gun crimes and needing an additional research facility to help support that. This is also being built to help further grow the talent pool among the individuals that would be most likely to work for the ATF. And you may remember this past year, the Board of Regents, they just approved 2 degree programs, master's level degree programs to help support graduate programs in forensics biology and forensics firearms examination. And so there is space in this facility to help support that as well. So we'll have the research aspect that the ATF is primarily responsible for, and then we'll have the academic piece to help further support their work as they continue to grow out this ecosystem here on our campus. And just so you know, this is the only ATF research facility on a university campus, so we're really excited to break that barrier with them. And if you go to the next slide, I believe that is the university stadium. You know that we've been working on this project for the last couple of years and have built back the east side, torn down the old facility on the east side and built back a smaller seating area and a pavilion that has restrooms and concessions and ticketing and those sorts of things, and a plaza area for gathering. So that's complete. And then right now you're seeing a lot of construction going on involving the track and field. So they tore out the old track and field and now are installing a regulation size soccer field. There's another project involving softball that is currently undergoing the construction process. And then in order to house that soccer field, we had to tear the track out because the field is wider than a football field. And you can see that there's getting a new track as well. And that should be completed hopefully by the end of this semester, that particular phase of it. If you haven't had a chance to look at this, you should walk over there. It looks really, really, really nice. And it's going to be a really state-of-the-art facility. There's also some new throwing fields over south of Coke Arena that are also part of this enhancement. And then hopefully next year, after the state track meet, because this won't be quite done until the spring, we will tear down the west side and rebuild a new grandstand, and that would fully complete that particular project. Go to the next slide. You've heard a lot about the Wichita Biomedical Campus. Provost Lansbury mentioned the support activities that she's involved in to help make sure that we fully utilize this facility and in a positive way, particularly on the research and innovation side. If you haven't had a chance to drive by the facility, you should do that. Or if you're interested in taking a tour, you should contact Emily Patterson. A remarkable facility. It's all framed out, and now they're starting to work on the inside of the building. Still on target to have most of the construction process is complete by the end of this, not this year, but next year, fiscal year 20 or calendar year 26. And then people will start moving into the facility in the spring, and then classes, labs, and other kinds of activities will start in the summer and fall of 27. So it's on track, on budget. Really exciting that we're going to be able to be a part of this going forward. And there's another slide after this, I believe. Yeah, and in concert with this, you may not know that there is no dental school in the state of Kansas. There's huge shortages of oral health providers. 20 counties in our state have no oral health provider, and 77 counties are in health profession or oral health profession shortage areas. So we believe that Wichita State is the right institution to move this forward. The state's been talking about it for a long time. Our Board of Trustees approved a small amount of money to develop a needs assessment and also a conceptualization of the project so people could see what this would look like, kind of take the same approach that we did when we received funding for the biomedical campus. As you know, Wichita State is an institution that believes in collaboration and partnerships like the partnership that we have with KU and the biomedical campus, and we are undergoing a partnership or developing a partnership with Fort Hays State University in Hays, Kansas, where the shortages are really acute in oral health. And they have agreed to come together with us to figure out what does the future dental school in Kansas look like. Is that primarily situated in Wichita with a satellite in Hays, something along those lines. And so that's what we're working on now. We will be hiring a consultant with some of the resources that we received from the Board of Trustees to help us work through that. And we'll spend from about now until next fall developing a report that we can take to the legislature, take to the Board of Regents, take to the governor to see how we might move this forward. And I did mention softball. I don't think I have a picture of that here earlier. We are also at the end of construction on phase 1A of enhancements to the softball stadium. And so now you'll see a new indoor practice facility that is complete, and they're now putting the final touches on the batting cages that were moved from the south side of the complex to the north side. And the next phase of that project would be building a new team operations center that hopefully we'll be able to start that soon. So I think that is all the construction updates that I have.
Thank you so much, President Mima. We're checking the chat real quick to see if we've had any additional questions. Real quick. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat currently. With that in mind, I would like to bring Provost Lounsbury back and thank you. Share great thanks to our panel for taking the time to address the questions that were asked. And I also would like to thank faculty and staff for sending their questions in advance to facilitate this town hall. As we see no additional questions in the chat, we'll go ahead and begin wrapping it up. Quick thing, I would also like to acknowledge that faculty and staff who will be viewing the town hall later today or later in the week might have additional questions. I would encourage you all to follow up directly with the President's office or Provost Lounsbury for any further clarifications or any input you've been seeking. So, Jacob?
Yeah, and on behalf of the Staff Senate, I would encourage you all to reach out to your senators if you have any concerns. Feel free to reach out to me as well. We want to be the voice of the staff and help support you, especially this year. And so anything we can do to help you, definitely reach out to us.
Okay, so it looks like the live chat might not actually be working. We're checking our email real quick to see if there are any questions there. Stay with us, please. There are currently none, but please feel free to email your questions to townhall@wichita.edu, and we'll be happy to answer all of your questions as they come in. We really appreciate it, and apologize for the technical difficulties. Thank you again to everyone who joined us this afternoon. And as always, please keep the questions and ideas coming. This is not the end of the conversation, and we want to continue to hear from all of you, faculty, staff. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Nice to be with you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.